everyone, welcome to today's lesson. We're going to be learning about adding and subtracting positive and negative integers. Let's go. Right, so this is Splash, you can see him. But we're going to be looking at adding and subtracting positive and negative integers. So let's just remind ourselves about what an integer is. It's a whole number, so there's no decimals or fractions. For example, negative 10 would be an integer, positive 100, negative 1,000,000. So it's these nice juicy whole numbers, right? That can be positive or negative. So I have this up on the board here because I think the vocabulary that we use in this section is very important, because there is a difference, right? If I talk about positive and negative versus using the words plus and minus. So the way I like to think of positive and negative. All right, so positive and negative, if you think about the number line, okay. Right, so there's 0 on my number line, and I know that this then is where my negative integers start, right? -1, -2. Well, do you see how right there I used the incorrect wording, right? We don't want to say -1, -2. We want to say -1, -2, -3. Going towards positive infinity, I have +1, +2, +3. And you might be thinking, well, whether I say plus or minus, positive or negative, aren't I saying the same thing? But what's important to understand, the difference here, is that positive or negative, think of it as an adjective in English. It's describing the number. It's explaining where the number is on the number line. If I say -3, right, it's saying I'm 3 units from 0 moving towards negative infinity. Right? If I say +2, that's saying, right, I'm in a positive position after 2 units after 0, moving towards positive infinity. So positive and negative is kind of explaining the behavior of the number and describing the number. Whereas if I say plus or minus, if I was to say 2 plus 3, right? 2 plus 3. This is now, think of it as an action word, right? So action words, we would call them verbs, hey? So this is explaining what are you going to do with these two numbers. So +2, describing where 2 is on the number line, plus +3. So your plus sign is your action, right? Your operation. This is saying, what are you going to do with these two numbers? All right. So I think it's very important that we understand the difference between positive, negative, plus or minus. So now we can actually get started. I'm not going to spend too much time with positive integers because that's stuff that we kind of do in everyday life. So I have some money here with me, right? So if I said, we know that this would obviously be positive, right? Positive 50 plus 20. We know 50 plus 20 would be 70. Or if I said to you, right here, 70 minus 20, that would be left with 50. So adding and subtracting using positive integers is really quite easy to understand and straightforward since it's applicable in real life. But when I get to the negative side of my number line, when I start looking at adding and subtracting negative integers, that's where things can be a little bit tricky. Great, so now that we've got a better understanding of the terminology that we use in this section, let's get stuck into some examples, because obviously that's the best way to learn. Hey, we've got to start practicing now and seeing what happens when you start adding and subtracting these integers. So let's start off with something, and I think I'm going to draw a number line here, minus -1, -2, -3, 1, 2, So let's do example 1. So if I said 1 minus negative 2. So it's 1, then the operation says minus. So we know that when we're subtracting, our number should be getting smaller, right? So it's saying 1 minus, but then it's saying minus negative 2. So we've got to now deal with the fact that I'm sitting with these two signs alongside one another, which in maths, numbers are not happy when that's going on. We want to have just one sign, one action between numbers, right? I want to say 1 operation, my next number, 2. So, since these two negatives are next to one another, and when two signs look the same and they're next to one another, your sign will become a plus. So this question actually reads 1, positive 1, plus positive 2. So we hear 1 plus, so we know that our number is increasing, our number is going to be getting bigger. 1 plus 2, so we add 2 from 1. We know that obviously that would just be 3. Super basic. Let's look at another one. If I said negative 3 minus negative 1. Alright, so negative 3 is here. Action word says minus. So I'm expecting the number to get smaller, but I now have the minus next to the negative in front of the 1. So again, I'm in the situation where I have two signs next to each other, which I don't want. I want these two signs to become one sign. And when you've got two signs next to each other that look the same, this becomes a positive. Alright, so brackets also imply multiplication in maths. So actually you could also think of this saying as a minus times the negative. Right, so the minus times the negative becomes positive. So this question actually reads negative 3 plus 1, which is negative 2. So now a smaller number, I'm adding to the smaller number. So when I'm adding, my number is getting bigger, moving towards positive infinity. So negative 3 plus 1 becomes negative 2. Alright, let's do it where the signs are different now. So negative 3 plus negative 1. So it's negative 3 plus, we know that our number should be getting bigger, right? We should be moving towards 0, towards positive infinity, plus negative 1. So I've got a bit of a problem here, because again, I've got these two signs next door to one another. They don't want to be two separate signs. They want to combine into one sign, and we just need to decide which is that sign that is going to combine into. Will it be a plus or will it be a minus? So when the signs were the same and they were next to each other, it becomes a plus. I did an example where we had two positives, or a plus and a plus next to each other, but think back to our money. Positive 50 plus positive 20. The plus and the positive, that just stays a plus, right? So again, that's very straightforward. It's applicable to everyday life. It's when we're dealing with the negative numbers, I know that we aren't as confident, but after this we should be. Now I've got the plus and then the negative 1 next door to it. So when these two signs are next to each other and they are not the same, we know that that becomes a negative. So it's going to be negative 3. The plus times the minus makes a minus. So it's going to be negative 3 minus 1. So now negative 3, we're subtracting, so our number will be getting smaller, going towards negative infinity. So minus 3 minus 1, so negative 3 minus 1. Hey, we've got to practice so much on that vocabulary. We think it's saying the same thing, right? And in a way it is, but we need to get in this habit of describing our word, describing our number, and describing the operation. Negative 3 minus 1 will be negative 4. So let's just quickly do a recap of our signs, because we could practice loads of these, but I think what's going to be the most effective is if you practice on your own, and if you get stuck, you can always come back to the video. So to summarize what we've just learned, if our two signs are the same, so if you have a minus next to a negative, or a plus next to a positive, if our signs are the same, remember your signs want to combine into one sign, right? We don't like having those two signs next to each other. And if your signs are the same, what happens is we come out with a plus. So the operation that you'll do between your integers is you'll be adding them. If, however, you have different signs, so we've got the minus or the negative, well, this will be minus and the positive number, or adding to a negative integer, right? Your signs here are different. They don't want to be two signs next to each other, they want to combine into one. When they are looking different as these last two are, and they combine, your operation now between your integers, you will be subtracting your integers. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and I hope you've got some better understanding of this section, and just go ahead and try these exercises now. I'm sure you'll do brilliantly. Thanks, everyone.